Hi everyone, today I am redrawing my fans' art. I'm taking drawings that you sent me and I'm redrawing it in my style. I'm doing a little draw this in your style moment. So I'll be taking a look at some art from my Patreon Discord, a wonderful community that I love, and we have a lot of fun on the internet. Let's see what we have here. Let's see what speaks to me, what tickles me a little bit. I really like this fox character from Amber. That's really cool. Ropey Rain sent a ladybug fairy. I love that very disco mommy wings. I like the color contrast. Pichi sent a cool drawing in. I love the attitude of this character. And I love the monochromatic. I'm a big monochromatic girl. I also like Noli Noli's character right here. So much that you don't see. It kind of gives me the creativity to go a little further and imagine what she looks like, not just the bust. I'm also really drawn to this character by Rose Sketch 20. It's such a canvas that I can explore with and see how far I can push and pull it because it's a really simple character. Okay, I think I'm gonna start with this character. But before we start, I'm using some different tools than I usually do, so let me tell you a little bit about them. TourBox and XP Pen are the sponsors of this video, and I was so excited when I got this box of goodies in the mail. They sent me the TourBox Elite along with the travel case, and this packaging is so luxurious. It feels like an Apple product. These knobs are so heavy. The analog feel is so cool. It doesn't feel cheap at all. Like, let's take a listen. Yes, I'm into that. They click, they clack, they sound so analog. I'm excited to figure out how all these buttons and knobs and spinners work. The travel case is a nice touch. It feels super durable. Let's see if I like this enough to carry it with me when I'm out and about. First impressions, this feels like a nice heavy product. It looks sleek and expensive, and it's battery powered. No need for cables. Finally, we can live in a wireless world. The installation process is super easy, and let's move on to XP Pen. I already have a few XP Pen tablets, so I already know what to expect, and I'm not gonna be disappointed. They sent me an Artist 15.6 Pro. Don't know what 0.6 means, but here we are. Oh, 15.6 inches on the screen. This is the perfect size for traveling. I love my 22-inch Cintiq, but it's just not practical if I want to work remotely from my desk. Same as TourBox, this packaging is so luxe. The tablet is nice and heavy, just the way I like it. It comes with a stand, which I love. I hate it when tablets have little flimsy legs that stick out and barely hold the weight. So if you're looking for your first digital drawing tablet, this is an affordable option, and the screen size is great for beginners. The pen is nice and heavy and comes with a bunch of extra nibs and all these extra little wall plugs, so you can use it for wherever you live. I'll tell you about some cool functions about TourBox as we go, but let's get back to the video. So I was really drawn to this character. I thought that the design itself, the outfit, the hair was really cool, and I really wanted to see how I could push it or I could pull it and make it look like my drawing, right? So I'm starting off with just a loose sketch, kind of just eyeballing what I kind of want to do, playing with the shapes around a little bit, seeing how the hair would work. And I also looked up some reference on this hairstyle because in the drawing, I wasn't sure where it connected in the back, and I was like, would it stick out a little bit more? Would it be flush against the head? So I'm pulling up a few reference images here, and I decided to have like the hair in a ball in the back, because that's where it would be. And then obviously liquefying it. You always got to liquefy it to play around, see how you can push and pull your design, because you never know what it's going to look like until you throw in the liquefy tool. Right now, I'm having a lot of fun with the TourBox basic brush sets. So I'm just using 4 basic brushes on like the up, down, left, right button. I'm using brush, erase, smudge, and eyedropper. Those are like my main sketching shortcuts. So when they're all together in one up, down, left, right, it was really fast. I felt like I was whirling by this sketching phase. And then starting to paint the character a little bit. You know, I always start with just my base, and then underneath a multiplied layer of all the line art, I'm just like throwing in some colors that would be, and then I'm starting to go in a little bit more rendered, and I throw in a whole layer on top of everything. So that's on top of my multiplied brush line art as well. So I'm just making it really sketchy. I'm not really here for the intention of making it really rendered and clean and beautiful. This whole drawing took maybe an hour to do, so I'm giving myself a little time limit to, you know, stick with it, draw something loose, sketchy, but really have the idea come across. And I'm referring back to my reference image. So she's got a little bit of a scar on her eyebrow, and she also has an eyebrow piercing. So to me, this character is a little badass, so I'm trying to keep that in the drawing phase that I'm making, and I'm working on the lips. My favorite thing to draw on the face is always like the lips, the way that you could render it, you could smooth it out, have a lot of differences in textures of smooth and rough. I really like that about lips. So I'm looking at the reference image, and she has some white curlies on her cheek, and I think it's part of her hair. I think it's like baby hairs, but it is such a prominent feature that I really wanted to display it nice and big, but also make it a little bit more subtle in my style. So I lowered the opacity and I made it blend in a little bit more, because if I were to do baby hairs in my style, they'd be a lot more subtle. But this has to be big and loud, just like the reference image, so I'm sticking to that. And then I'm just sketching over everything else. So I really like to, you know, focus on the face, because that's the focal point. Get that out of the way as fast as I can, because I get bored easily. And if I were to start in the body, then the face wouldn't be rendered as well, because you gotta start strong. You have the energy, you got the stamina when you start. So you lose that stamina, and I'm going a lot more looser and sketchier as the drawing continues, because that's what I do. I get bored easily. What can I say? And then now I'm kind of blocking in some basic shapes for the jacket that she's wearing. I see that she's wearing like a denim jacket in the reference image, but I kind of don't really go for that. I do an inventive jacket. I don't even know what material that is, to be honest. But I'm having a lot of fun playing with different types of shapes, and also throwing in a lot of gradients. You know, it's not about texture sometimes it's just about gradients. And hands, you don't always get the hands on the first try. This is my second attempt at hands. As you can see, sketch it out a few times, see what happens. And, you know, throwing in a few highlights to make the jacket from far look like it has all the correct details. It looks right. And then by the end, you know, it's a very loose and rough, like, little drawing, and it doesn't have to be more than that. Now it's time for final details. So I'm adding rings and jewelry and little details of lace and stuff like that, little zippers, just little things to make it feel a little bit more real and grounded. Playing around with some gradients on top to make sure that the colors all look cute and all look nice. And that's about it. It's just like a upper torso shot of this character. I think it's pretty cute. I think that I captured her personality quite well. Let me know if you think that I did that as well, if I captured her personality well. Moving on to the next character. Okay, I'm so in love with Pichi's character right here. I gotta give it a shot, see what I can do. There's a few drawings here. He looks so really angry. I also love a monochromatic palette, and I think the style of this drawing is also pretty fun because it's unique. It's very graphic and clean, and my style is rough and dirty. So let's try to see how this is gonna look like in my style. So starting off here, I am starting with a loose sketch, as I always do, playing around with shapes, seeing what she would sit like. I always start with the face, because the face gives me this mean personality, and then I'm like, well, what is the rest of the body gonna look like? And it just flows out, and it comes and goes, and then I discover what I like. I'm also focusing a lot on the shapes at this point. I'm really into cool angles and where the shapes really tell a lot of the story. So I'm focusing on perspective as well, on that front foot and the back foot, also with like sharpness of her fingertips. The sketching phase is really important to really figure out these parts of the process, and that's one of my favorite parts. Another part about TourBox that I really love is the tour menu. So you might be seeing, I'm going to show you in a moment, this little menu that pops up. So when I click this button, I configured this customized menu that has all these functions that I don't usually use so often. And these are the functions that I don't want as a quick shortcut. I want to have like a drop down. So like new layer, hue saturation, but also liquify, because liquify is everything. And I told you at the beginning, if you're not liquefying your drawings, then you're not doing it right. I'm going to start adding a few new functions to this thing and see how I can make my process as efficient as possible. I'm the efficiency queen here. Next, I'm multiplying my line art. I'm changing it to a fun color, and then I'm just blocking out the color behind her. I'm doing it rough and dirty, all basically one layer, nothing really to it. Playing with the hue and saturation, because the reference drawing that I have has a cool blue background, and I also really like that idea, and I started off with that idea. But the more I kind of thought about it, I really I really like when a monochromatic piece also has the same background color because it doesn't stand out so much, and then it kind of feels a little more cohesive, a little more harmonious in my opinion, right? And I'm also choosing slightly different colors for her than in the reference piece, because the reference piece is very red and it's a lot of shifts in values, but I really like to change the shifts in hues as well. So I'm making her jacket a little bit more purple. It makes it stand out a little bit more. And then the tufts on her jacket are that orange color, like in the reference image. So we're going around from purple to red to orange. So it's still in that warm color combo, but it's a little bit different. And then I changed the background to orange because I feel like that makes the foreground, like the character, pop out a little bit more without making it a complementary color like blue. So that's my thought process behind that. And then I'm starting to just color pick parts from the existing color palette that I have to start painting in other pieces. So like for the hair, for example, instead of just making it a darker red, I'm gonna pick purple because that's the color in her jacket, and I'm gonna try to combine it like that. For her skin tone, she has a little bit of brightness on her cheeks, and I'm using a little bit of the red from her hair to do that. So I'm trying to keep my palette very limited, using the colors that are already available for me. And that's a really good tip, that if you're overwhelmed with how many colors, you know, you choose your 4 or 5 base colors, and then you can really like explore within that, because sometimes limiting yourself really is the thing that is that little push that you need, right? And I'm using the orange from the background as highlights for the hair. I like to play with like a little bit of texture along with a little bit of smoothness. So I'm like with the purple in her hair, there's a lot of smooth parts, and then there's some rough lines for that highlight. And I think that's cool. I also like adding a lot of little graphic elements to, you know, balance a little bit more realism and balance a little bit more graphicness. So her eyelashes, for example, are 3 chunky 3 eyelashes, and that's pretty cartoony and that's pretty graphic. But then it's contrasted by like a little bit more rendered skin tone, for example, right? And this drawing was the second drawing that I did, and I did it back to back. So this drawing took about an hour as well, but I didn't want to render it as much as I rendered that first drawing. The first drawing was focused very much on her bust and, you know, like her face and getting that face personality. And this piece is more of a full body piece. So it's a little bit less rendered in that sense. It's a little bit more rougher, and where you can, you know, kind of get the vibe of her whole self rather than the vibe of her face, if that makes sense. So let me tell you about Tool Switch a little bit. So, you know, I told you about the tour menu. I told you about my up, down, left, right buttons, but the most basic functions like spacebar and scroll are honestly my favorite part about this tour box. Like having a scrolling button, a knob button, having your brushes go bigger and smaller, zoom in, zoom out, is like honestly game-changing. Even as I'm editing this video, I am missing a scroll function. Like keyboards are de-evolved. You know what I mean? These knobs are incredible. Some of the shortcuts that I customized are fill, lasso, deselect, merge layers, the ones that I basically use the most often. There's definitely a learning curve, I'm not gonna lie, but as I got to the end of my second drawing, I was really getting the hang of it, and that was only like 2 hours of using it. My method of memorizing the functions is to learn one by one, you know, getting a couple really good practice in, and then adding a new function after you get the hang of the first one. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm really trying to finish this rendering process. Like I said, I get bored easily, so I am throwing in just as much detail as I can, like less. I'm a big fan of less lines is more. The less you need to do to your drawing, you really showcase the most out of it. I know that didn't make any sense, but just like imagine that it did. I'm just focusing really on adding those few details that are going to make the piece more interesting. And you see this jacket here is this dark type of purple. Later I end up brightening a little bit because, you know, if you were to turn this black and white, the purple of her front arm, so the left screen left arm, is pretty dark and it's almost the same color as her skin tone, a little bit lighter than the black of her socks, but at the end of the day, it's not that much difference. So it's important to keep your values in control when you're drawing. And then I'm throwing in some details that I see in the original drawing. So she has some cool cross earrings, and then I throw that into her necklace as well. I think that'll enhance it. She has fangs in the reference image, which I think is really cool. So I kind of throw that into her lip a little bit subtly, right? And I'm really just adding these final details to make her really pop as a character, to really show that attitude, throwing in some blue highlights to throw in some different colors. I don't want it to just be monochromatic. I want it to be full of life and full of color. And that's basically the drawing. And I had this really cool smoke effect as an homage to the original drawing. And I think that shape is really cool. So let me know what you think about my recreation, my draw this in your style of this character. Because I think it's pretty cool. I think this character is pretty badass and she gets the job done. So those are my recreations of my fans' art. Thank you, Pichi and RoseSketch20, for your fabulous drawings for me to go off of. Let me know which recreation of mine is your favorite. I would love to know. And like, comment, subscribe. You know that helps me. So if you want to send some artwork for me to potentially redraw, then all you gotta do is join my Patreon Discord and throw your artwork into the channel. My Discord is full of a lot of cool resources and community, and it's really cool. I've never really been part of a Discord before, and I feel like there's a real sense of learning and, you know, getting to know each other and drawing together. So that's cool. Like, comment, subscribe before you forget. I know you're gonna forget. And thanks again to TourBox and XP Pen for sending me some products for me to try out. Little recap on TourBox. I really like how sleek it feels, how heavy it is, and I really like the sound and like the analog feeling of all the buttons. I think that's really cool. It definitely takes a little bit to get used to. Okay, I'm editing. Quick update. Honestly, I've been using TourBox while editing the whole thing. These knobs change. This changes everything. But once I started to really get those functions, I was flying. A little bit later, I was working on my keyboard again, and then I was like, oh, these buttons are so far away from each other. And also, since whenever I go to a new computer to work on Photoshop, I always have to remake my shortcuts because I always have custom buttons that I make, which is annoying. But maybe now I'll just bring this TourBox with me. And what I like about XP Pen is that it's small and portable. It does the job. It's a great beginner tablet if you're looking for a display pen device for your first time. And thanks again for watching this video, and I'll see you later. Bye.